When it's time to begin, it's on the Rewind to Ride with Jon Pollock and Wai Ting. The A-Team that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Rewind to Ride for Monday night. Download it Tuesday morning from the Post Wrestling site. It's Rewind to Ride for Monday night on USA Now on the Jon and Wai Take the Mic.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rewind to Raw. Jon Pollock here alongside Wai Ting. Happy Monday, everybody. It is the post-Super Bowl edition of Rewind to Raw. How are you, Wai? What a riveting ending to that game.
Did you watch it?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
I didn't see... Did I even see a minute? I don't think I even checked in at one point. Not to the actual game. I don't think I even tuned into the... I think I tuned in right before kickoff, and that was it.
I didn't see a second of it. So
I watched the halftime show today on YouTube. That's what I watched with Jennifer Lopez and Shakira.
Good.
It was cool. It was like 15 minutes. It's very impressive. I'm always like kind of impressed by just the sheer spectacle of all of it, and I was actually kind of like watching the dance routine and everything. So I just watched that series Cheer on Netflix, the cheerleading documentary. So
yeah,
watching this is like that times like 1,000. So
yeah,
it's very impressive. Very, very physically demanding.
I'm always impressed that the Super Bowl is able to make like millions of people listen to music that they would otherwise never listen to the rest of the year.
I wouldn't like turn the radio off if Jennifer Lopez or Shakira came on. I'm fine with them.
I guess you're the exception. Or you and millions, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, Shakira did that wonderful Canadian tribute to one of our most iconic bands and their propensity for always telling the truth.
So what was that?
Hips Don't Lie.
Oh. Jeez.
How are you?
Wow.
How are you beyond
Tough one.
football? Yeah, I tried.
I mean, that was more of a riddle, I feel.
That one was thrown out there because, 1% of the people listening would be like, oh, I get it. Not funny, but I got it. You gotta take some risks every now. It's like, it's like a fourth down and you're at like your own 30-yard line. You're just going to punt it. It's like you take a chance.
You got to throw a skill testing question out there from time to time. And I guess I failed miserably.
No, you never fail, Wai. You always succeed. How's your weekend overall?
Good. Yeah, good.
You're preparing for a major move, correct? Can we talk about this?
Yeah, I'm about to move. So
like this weekend, correct?
This weekend, correct? Yeah. So
wow.
I'm pretty much like, I started already, so I'm packing today. I did a minor move today, but the big one will be on Saturday. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Caught a couple movies last night. I watched
a couple of movies.
Yeah, I saw Uncut Gems, as we talked about on our, Patreon bonus show last night.
Uh-huh.
And then I also saw, screening of 2001: A Space Odyssey for the first time. I saw it in a theater at the Ontario Place Cinesphere.
I assume you saw that before we did our show.
Yes.
Okay, you didn't go out at like 2 a.m. to go watch this.
No,
I watched the first hour of Uncut Gems.
Okay,
I haven't finished it yet. Already, be spoiler free, everybody. I think it's like hands down Adam Sandler's best performance to date. And honestly, that sounds like, well, duh. He's been in some good stuff.
Yeah, I haven't seen like all of his kind of like more serious films. I've seen Punch Drunk Love. I haven't seen like some of the other ones that came out recently. I haven't even seen Spanglish actually, so can't really.
The first one I ever saw with him was that I saw like it switching for him was this movie Click. It's a very bizarre premise, but you watch that movie and it is like heart-wrenching at times. And I remember watching this film and just being like, wow, this is I I was expecting to go in and just see the latest silly Adam Sandler movie, and what I came away with was like, this guy, there's something to this guy in terms of his acting chops, and I think that Uncut Gems is kind of the culmination of this. With a shout out to Kevin Garnett, who's also very good in this, as I'm an hour into this thing, so yeah. I can't give an overall assessment of the film, but so far, very impressive.
So, Click. All right.
Click. I mean, don't watch Uncut Gems and then go watch Click and be like, you're going to be a little let down. But I would say that to me was the first sign of this guy being able to get away from the comedic roles that I think still people of our generation might unfairly just pigeonhole him in.
I'm going to have to check Click out. An architect discovers a universal remote that permits him to fast forward and rewind to certain portions of his life.
Okay, it sounds stupid. It sounds especially stupid when you're going to see this on a date in 2006. And I thought I was just seeing like the latest stupid Big Daddy iteration. So give it a fair shake. Go and try. And
well, I see on Google search right now when I type in Click, one of the first things that pops up is Click 2006 farting on the boss scene. So I'll at least start with that.
Okay, watch it and get back to me and see if my recommendation holds up. It's been when did that movie come out? Do you have it?
2006.
Handy? It was 2006. So it was 14 years ago because I saw that in the movie theaters. So maybe this was me at a more impressionable age. How old would I have been there? Like 21? So anyway. Adam Sandler. You recommend Uncut Gems for those that have not seen it?
I do. And if you don't know really what to expect going into it, just go into it. And I certainly wasn't prepared for how kind of I don't know, suffocating it was, like in a good way.
Literally, like he's in the trunk and I thought he was going to suffocate.
Sure, like it was a scene like that. I mean, to me, it was almost like I think it's almost like an unpleasant feeling, but like
that's so weird. My wife had the exact same response.
Well, yeah, I think that's
really uncomfortable. I was like, I just thought like this is a really good movie.
Well, I think the film is designed for you to feel uncomfortable. So, I mean, if you're willing to kind of take that step to let, a piece of visual art give you that sort of very unique feeling when watching it, I think you would enjoy the experience.
Well, I'm looking forward to finishing it. So that's one night when there's no wrestling on, I'm going to try and get back to it. So maybe in about a month or so, we can talk about this.
Yeah, okay, sure.
When there's a quiet night. But there's never a quiet night here at the post office, everybody, because we're kicking off the week with our big discussion of football and Uncut Gems. And then later this week, we've got Rewind Away, number 54, dropping on Tuesday night. Wai and I are going to be reviewing the WWE's return to Australia in 2002 after, how long did we figure this was? 16 years away from the country? They return with Global Warning, headlined by The Rock, Triple H, and Brock Lesnar. Really, they're just playing kind of second fiddle to the real main events, which are a kiss my ass match between Rikishi and Rico and a 2002 classic, the Braun Panties match between Stacy Keibler and Tori Wilson with Big Valboski as our ring announcer.
Do we know which in the series this Braun Panties match between Tori and Stacy it was? I mean, this was like
they're the Funk Briscoe of Braun Panties programs in the early 2000s.
Pretty much, yeah. And I think they're all classics. So this one I actually haven't seen yet, so I look forward to it.
So we also do have one slot open for prospective Espresso subscribers out there. So if you want to join in on the fun, there is a spot open. One spot. So be polite as you race for it. Wednesday night, we've got our regular shows, Rewind to Dynamite, and Up Next coming your way. Thursday, it's the Cafe Hangout. It is going to be the post-mortem after the WWE's big earnings report covering the fourth quarter of last year and their year-end report as well. And then the investors call, where they are going to say that the lines are now open. Please press star after star one for questions. And I think there's going to be a rampage of questions coming their way. The stock has plummeted And this call on Thursday, it's going to be, man, everyone's going to be paying attention to this thing.
Yeah. If we, we'll certainly look forward to talking about it. But if we get a recording of it, I guess we'll try to.
We can get a recording of it. I can definitely roll on it. Yeah.
We'll just throw it up on the on one of the feeds, either the Patreon feed or this feed, just so people can readily see it. But I believe it's on the website as well, on WWE.com's corporate website.
And we'll be joined by Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics on Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, live for all patrons. We'll be taking your phone calls, chatting with Brandon about all the subjects coming out of that call and the report on Thursday, and then going through Wednesday night ratings, calls, all of that great stuff. Friday night, Rewind to SmackDown is going to be a solo effort from Wai Ting, who is being so gracious to give me the night off. So this is where I'm going to owe you one way. But I'm looking forward to Rewind to SmackDown with the one and only Wai Ting.
I'll be taking a brief pause from packing to
I'm so sorry.
No,
I didn't
it's
even
all
think
good.
of that.
Totally fine. I mean, I'm packing my computer very last, so I can do this podcast with my microphone, probably in a very empty, echoey room. So I look forward to that.
Also dropping Friday will be the British Wrestling Experience. Martin Beno and Jamesy have tons of stuff to go through. They're going to be chatting the most recent progress card. They're going to be chatting about Worlds Collide, Marty Scurll's role in Ring of Honor since re-signing, and going through just tons of topics. So look forward to that on Friday. Saturday night, it's the UFC 247 post show. Phil will be with me as we chat this card in Houston, Texas, headlined by Jon Jones and Dominic Reyes, as well as Caitlin Chukagian challenging Valentina Shevchenko. So that's happening Saturday night. Sunday morning, Thunderstruck drops with W.H. Park and Nate Milton, as they will be reviewing Jushin Thunder Liger, Brian Pillman from the very first episode of WCW Monday Nitro from the Mall of America.
Wow, excellent, cool. There's going to be a lot of Nate on the network this weekend, or this week, in the coming weeks, I mean. Maybe you should announce it now, but yeah, we signed Nate Milton to come back on for our post-wrestling MCU reviews, because our very next movie is Black Panther. So if you sign up right now for our Patreon, you get all the bonus shows. You get Rewind Away, last night's New Japan Pro Wrestling review, this weekend's New Japan Pro Wrestling bonus review, and then our MCU reviews, which continue next week.
Yes, and that concludes our shows this week with a Sunday night post-show after New Beginning in Osaka. So 3 bonus shows for patrons coming up this week, plus the live hangout. So a lot of great stuff. If you are new to the Patreon joining, you also get access to the entire library and lots of great stuff. The whole schedule can be found up at postwrestling.com, and we can move over to some of the news items from today. And sometimes it's the blockbuster news that occur right after Wai and I record. Such was the case on Sunday night when we finished our New Beginning post show. And there, Joey Janela drops that Minoru Suzuki will be taking on Orange Cassidy at Spring Break 4 on April the 3rd. So, with all due respect to some of the other announcements so far, this might take the cake for WrestleMania week.
I don't know if there's going to be a bigger match that weekend. It's a match that I don't know if I ever thought I wanted to see, but once I saw that graphic, it was one of those like drop everything I'm doing moments. Okay, I'm set. Suzuki, Cassidy, bring it on.
This is going to be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to being at this show for this reaction. Like, this is the perfect match for this show, for this crowd, and I think Minoru Suzuki is going to have the time of his life doing this match.
Oh, for sure.
I think he's going to be hard for him to just stay as Minoru Suzuki in this match, because I think this guy's just going to have a blast doing this.
What I really want to know is how these two are going to put that match together. That's what I find really fascinating. And I think we know that like Minoru Suzuki really does have like a comedic side to him that, you know, doesn't necessarily come out in New Japan Pro Wrestling, but like you've seen like an empty arena match he did with DDT, you know, I guess the guy is like really funny. If you follow his Instagram, I think you know that he has a sense of humor. So I really look forward to seeing what sort of creativity these two will create, and the crowd will be amazing at that show.
Man's got the most outstanding collection of socks I've ever seen. Like, the man is like a real like fashionista, as you can see just when we went to his store over there in Japan. Like, this is some higher end quality clothing that the man is responsible for.
Did you buy anything? I
No.
went to the store before. We didn't go together, but you didn't buy anything. Okay.
No, I just took a look at everything.
Was he there? Was he working?
No, he was not.
Oh.
I think Martin might have bought some stuff, as I recall.
Yeah.
The WWE stock, it's not leveling off. So after a tumultuous last couple of days coming off of the news Thursday afternoon/evening with George Barrios and Michelle Wilson, the stock opened up on Monday at $48.96. It dropped another 5.7% down to $46.08. There seems to be a lot of panic coming out of this. Not so much panic in the sense that this company is doomed, but just the uncertainty of all of this. This was a very left field decision. There is, they are seeking a permanent replacement for two instrumental figures in the rise of this company that has seen, so many of their big deals that were completed, that Barrios and Wilson, they were heavily attached to. And I think that you're getting a lot of this, I would say panic. I would say when you've seen the stock drop to this extent, that is a panic sell by a lot of investors.
Yeah. I guess it remains to be seen how much of this is just sort of expected sort of like stock fluctuation coming off of a big sudden change like this, and how much of this kind of level is going to be sustaining for the WWE stock. I think much of it will be determined after Thursday, perhaps, seeing what the results are, what these numbers are, seeing how the WWE might do, some damage control. But I mean, I don't know, it's sort of the nature of the stock market.
It's a big drop, and it's probably lower than it should be at this point. That I think it will rebound to a degree. It remains to be seen if they're going to have a significant increase in this stock. I would say that as they go into Thursday, there's a number of things pending. Of course, the big ones are the television deal that is yet to be completed yet in India, in the Middle East and North Africa. I think if they can spread a lot of optimism about how those talks are progressing and hopefully building up some anticipation for those deals, as well in this first quarter this year, they're getting a Saudi Arabia show, which, I mean, your own personal feelings on those shows aside, they're enormous revenue makers for the company, and you're getting it earlier this year. Last year, it was in the second quarter, so this year you're getting that show coming up in a few weeks. That's followed by the WrestleMania quarter. There is stuff that they can really present as a kind of reducing that kind of panic on Thursday. And at the end of the day, having these television deals that, as much as you can look at certain sectors of their business being down, ultimately, like, this is a pretty foolproof company at this point because of these television deals. This is not something where the health of this company is in great question or anything like that. So maybe it's being kind of overly panicking with this whole thing. But I think having this thing certainly could have been handled a lot better in terms of, if you're going to go in such a different direction, having those people ready to replace those roles and not cause such a panic throughout Wall Street. So it's a very interesting way of how they handle all of this week with the questions that they're going to be asked about.
Yeah, we don't really know the reasons why Barrios and Wilson were so suddenly ejected. I would imagine that this wasn't their first choice to have this, I guess, to have this play out the way that it has. But, I'm also interested to hear during this conference or just the presentation about any further updates on the network. They had talked about the tiering system in the past. Mm-hmm. No real news coming out of that since the last call. Also, what their new policies might be regarding live events, cutting back on live events, future plans on live events. We haven't really heard any public statement regarding that so far from the WWE, so this will be an opportunity to get some insight on that.
Yeah, and how many of those topics get addressed. I hope that stuff is addressed. It's not just all centered around the Barrios and Michelle Wilson news. So, yeah, there's lots to take from whatever comes up in that call on Thursday. Ring of Honor has announced a couple of matches coming up. First of all, for their 18th anniversary show, it's going to be Dragon Lee and Bandito for the television title. So that sounds tremendous on paper. And then the next night for their past versus present show, it is confirmed it will be Jay Lethal versus former ROH champion Xavier, who cut a promo, and they have posted the promo. As well, Jonathan Gresham versus Doug Williams has been added to that show. So I would say both nights, they've got some intriguing things for both nights. Dragon Lee and Bandito, that should be phenomenal. That will probably be the match of that pay-per-view.
It's a solid-looking lineup, and I feel like that's a lot more than I could say for like prior ROH lineups, which either in the past just have felt like they were off mark with like maybe a lot more sort of sports entertainment or figures that I just didn't really care to see wrestle. But, you know, this is like a card that feels fresh, especially, you know, the combination of past and new. Looking forward to see like Gresham versus Doug Williams. Is Jonathan Walters?
John Walters.
Yeah. Is he a part of that?
John Walters, he's been added to the past versus present show. Yeah.
But not a part of that match.
Of which match?
The Gresham Williams match.
No, it's that's just a singles match, and Walters he's just been announced for the card, not a match yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, you know, like the combination of, I think, all these names has certainly, in a way, in a strange way, like bringing names from the past has freshened up their, I guess, current roster, at least for this show. So, if it's successful, I could see a lot of these names sticking around.
Yeah, there's a bit of buzz right now for Ring of Honor, and I think pretty much looking at that weekend, that may be one where people are going to, you know, check out Ring of Honor, see what's going on with them come mid-March, which that past versus present show, I believe it's on your birthday. So what a way for you to celebrate.
Okay, yeah.
Jon Jones was on Ariel Helwani show today. This is ahead of the UFC 247 card on Saturday, and, you know, it said what you would expect going into this fight with Dominic Reyes. It's not the biggest name in the world that he's ever fought, but it is an undefeated fighter who Jon Jones, certainly his fights last year, especially the Thiago Santos fight in July. You know, Thiago Santos had to deal with a significant injury early on in that fight, and it was very close that Jones won that decision. So there is, I guess, you go in always with certain questions, but, you know, Jon Jones should rightfully so be favored in this fight, but he certainly seemed pretty adamant about the idea of moving to heavyweight and going so far as to say he believes he beats Stipe Miocic if they were to fight. And of course, Miocic is the current heavyweight champion. And when you do kind of like figuring all this matchmaking out in your head, like supposing Jones gets by Reyes and then he's eyeing heavyweight at this point, you know, Daniel Cormier is pretty much waiting to fight Miocic, as Miocic had to have eye surgery for a torn retina. He just wants to have the final fight with Miocic and then retire. And he's been waiting and waiting. And Jon Jones, like Ariel immediately brings it up. It's like, so you could kind of like leapfrog Cormier and like screw up all of his plans. And Jones just kind of like is kind of didn't give much of a reaction to that. But, you know, certainly Jon Jones at this point, like if he beats Dominic Reyes, there aren't a whole lot of light heavyweight fights. There are names you can throw at him, but heavyweight to me is where the big fights are for Jon Jones. And I think that after Saturday with a win, that's really where he should be directing his attention. I think now is the time for him to be moving up to heavyweight because there's countless fights for him there at that new division.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And the final thing, did you get to see the Road to Huntsville video from AEW tonight?
Did not.
So there is... I think you'd be very happy with this one. So they started off, they recapped the Cody Dustin match from Double or Nothing because PWI gave them a pair of plaques for their match of the year. So they did a little feature on that. Then we got the Rio sit-down feature and the utilization of subtitles. And she just went through all the different contenders in the women's division. She came across just so likable in this interview and just petrified about anyone coming after her hair as well. So it was a nice little feature on Riho, who I know that's been a source of frustration for some, that there hasn't been a whole lot of pieces like this on Riho. And granted, this is an online video, but it was something in that direction. But the best thing on this show, Arn Anderson is just interviewed about being Cody's coach. And dude, it was just Arn Anderson, a masterclass on just sitting there explaining his role as the coach. Cody is too busy to be finding out who's hurt, who's dealing with problems ahead of his match. His job is to just pretty much parade around backstage, pick up on gossip, do scouting reports for all of Cody's opponents, and then relay that information to his star, Cody. And Arn Anderson, just, again, I'll say this for like the 1,000th time. I don't understand how this guy had a behind-the-scenes role for almost 20 years in WWE and was not in front of a camera. This guy's one of the best promos in the industry.
Any indication about, like, heel babyface?
His delivery, it certainly is tailor-made for him to take this coaching role into a heel direction. I think that is where you have to go with this, and I think Arn will be fantastic in that role. Whether it's aligning with, I really don't think he needs to be paired with an MJF. I'd hope it would be with someone that could really utilize Arn. But I think everyone assumes that's where it's going. I don't think long-term Cody needs this, but it is, whenever they decide to pull the trigger, that's another kind of detour program that can keep Cody busy while he's out of the world title mix. And Arn pairing up with someone, that would make a lot of sense to me. And for all I know, maybe it could be MJF that they have Arn align himself with, potentially. What do you think?
I mean, I can only speak on what I've seen him do on Dynamite, and really, I think coming off of him getting himself ejected last week, and almost doing more harm to Cody than helping, it seems to me like maybe a turn might be in the works. But who knows? Maybe I'm off.
Oh, and the last thing here. Did you see the Super Bowl numbers? Did you see how many people watched this on Sunday?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
99.9 million viewers on linear television. And then when you throw in streaming and Fox Deportes, it brings it up to 102 million people that watch the game. And the interesting stat I was looking at is that it was a record for people streaming the game with 3.4 million people. So that's up 800,000 from last year who streamed this. So, I mean, still, it's a fraction of the people that are watching this on TV, but just interesting to watch that number continue to increase, even though, I mean, it's nowhere in the realm of people watching it on traditional television.
Not yet.
Not yet. They have about 95 million to go, but, increasing at a healthy rate.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the Super Bowl is like one of those kind of still like it's a huge party thing, and at this point it's available on free TV still, and I don't necessarily. It's not like a pay-per-view or like a WWE, I don't know, network type of special where you kind of have to rely on streaming. So it doesn't really surprise me. Like the Super Bowl is like the biggest thing on TV.
Not to compare it to the Super Bowl and those figures, but if you were to put WrestleMania on Fox, what do you think would be the ceiling for the biggest WWE event of the year on network television? Do you think it could do, let's say, 8 million viewers? Do you think it could hit 8 million?
SmackDown does 2?
2.5.
Depending on the card, like if they had like a big celebrity main event, and I feel like if it was going to be on Fox, they would do their best to try to like have that big crossover TV main event. I think it would do better than that.
What about this year's show with what is the projected lineup?
8? I'm not sure. What's the equivalent? What's the biggest comparable that you have?
It's so hard to look at because like something of that magnitude. I mean, they've never really tested that, putting a WrestleMania on free television. I mean, you have to go back a long way to putting the Royal Rumble on the USA Network, for instance. But that was like a totally different world that we're talking about. I mean, I don't expect it to happen. Fox would have to make it so lucrative for WWE to take that off of the network. And to me, if I was taking it off the network, it would be to put it on pay-per-view, not to put it on Fox, unless Fox made you just a stupid offer to to pay for the rights to that show. But it's just an interesting like guessing game of what could WrestleMania attract in a 4-hour slot on Fox on a Sunday night in April.
Yeah, essentially you'd be asking how many people would be interested enough to watch this thing if it was available for free.
Maybe if you had, it'd be going back years because I doubt he's going to wrestle again at this point, but having a match like The Rock and Cena that you would think would have your biggest reach to a non-wrestling viewer that would tune in for that.
I guess so. Sure.
Anyway. All right. Let's get into Raw. Going down Monday night from Salt Lake City, Utah. I don't know if you caught it during the show. They snuck it in at one point that there was a snowstorm in Utah. Did you catch this?
I think you mean every single commercial break that they came back from.
They were not going to make you forget that. Look at all these people that came through in a snowstorm to be here, and it sounded like it was a hell of a day to be in Salt Lake City and the surrounding areas that they got. All the snow. There were I think something over 200 car accidents that they were looking into. School closures. They were advising people to stay home if you could. So, I mean, it sounds like it was quite the treacherous day to be navigating the city. I
do wonder if perhaps during the day they knew that, of course, this was going to, be a tough show for audiences to get to. Perhaps they were planning all of these bits in the event that nobody showed up. And, in fact, people did. And I would say this didn't really look any different from a typical Raw by the end of it when you're starting to watch the show. I wouldn't even have known that there was going to be a snowstorm unless they reminded us. But I like the fact that they did remind you. It's almost like, telling you that every single Raw is different and that people who showed up seem to really want to be there.
If this was the Attitude Era, they would have sent Road Dogg and Al Snow out to wrestle in the snow.
Yes.
Go into a frozen river. Do something
they do
insane.
have the 24/7 title. I mean, they could have done it.
Well, you can't disgrace that championship. I mean, you got to handle Mojo Rawley with care as they're trying to reestablish that division.
Big night for that belt today.
Yep. On main event, they had Gallows and Anderson over Hawkins and Ryder, and Cedric Alexander. I don't know if you're familiar with him, defeating Shelton Benjamin. The show began with a recap of last week's closing angle with Randy Orton and Edge, and Orton came out, and the announcers explained that Edge is at home recovering and awaiting results from a litany of tests. And Orton, this was just a masterclass of watching a guy just milk this crowd, and every time he goes to talk, he is serenaded with boos, and he is stalling, and he continues to get booed. They chant for Edge, and he would just say a word, stop. The crowd was upset with him. And then finally he just said, I can't do this. And he leaves. And God, you watch this. If this crowd wasn't on board with this could have just bombed. And this worked out, I thought, really great. I thought Orton was fantastic here. This crowd they hated this dude. This was 5 minutes of this in the ring.
I felt like it was more than that.
Maybe I'm being conservative. It felt lengthy.
I thought this was amazing. Obviously, I think at least a partial intent of a segment like this is to stall. But I think in exercise, it ended up being incredibly captivating. Imagine seeing this on paper. Randy Orton has to go outside to the arena, and the script would probably be 3 words, 4 words, and it was supposed to last 10 minutes. And somehow I think that challenge to me is way more compelling to watch than your typical 10-minute scripted promo. To me, it was like seeing Orton perform in a silent film. The guy is just so good at playing with these crowd reactions. It's he's able to control the volume knob of the audience using his face. Just by looking a certain way, moving his body a certain way, he's able to just the smallest movements is able to play with this crowd's responses like it's clay. So I think he's operating, at least in a segment like this, at a level that very few performers are capable of in pro wrestling today. So I highly recommend watching this.
These 2 weeks, it's really drawn a picture of when this guy is engaged and when he's not. And man, he has Like, you can see, I'm in a major program for Mania, and he's all in on this program, and you're getting the back-to-back weeks, like 2 of the better performances from Randy Orton in a long time.
You can tell this is the type of role that, like, he loves to play the most. And you could see it because he's so good at it. It's a serious storyline. It's not like...
He's not going to be burning Edge's house down somewhere.
Yeah, it's not bullshit. It's like, it's something serious and maniacal, which, again, he's great at.
Lana and Liv Morgan, the rematch that no one asked for, but we were getting anyway. Lana got shoved down and complained about her wrist, but it was just a ploy, and hit her Tiger Mask head kick to Liv Morgan playing the role of Yuya Uemura. There was a chant of USA, which was comical, and then Morgan hit her flatliner off the middle rope and pinned Lana again in 1:20. What was interesting on this show was that the Lana Bobby Lashley story almost felt like it was dropped tonight. There was no mention of Lana in the main event. She was not out with Lashley.
They mentioned her when Lashley was interviewed, but that was really it. Like, Rusev is nowhere to be seen. Yeah,
he's recovering from that parking lot brawl they had that took them out of the Royal Rumble.
Was that? Did that happen?
Remember, that was the explanation they gave for them being out of the Royal Rumble.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I guess, I don't know, whatever. But it seems like at least temporarily they've dropped the whole Rusev Lana Lashley thing.
And as Liv is celebrating her victory, Ruby Riott makes her return. She's been out since May, having double shoulder surgery, and Liv is so excited that Ruby is here. And then Ruby attacks her, and she takes her out. Lana is watching on. She clotheslines Liv in the back of the neck, and then Lana hits Liv with the X Factor. Ruby leaves, and we've got Ruby Riott back.
Yeah. I'll say, like, I think coming off the Edge Orton angle, this felt, in comparison, very predictable and much more of a cliche pro wrestling angle. It's unfortunate because I think the timing is just highlights perhaps how beginners this was versus I think how much of a masterclass that other angle was. Nonetheless, I think it's a feud that makes sense to do if you have Ruby Riott that's ready. Liv Morgan, somebody clearly that they're trying to push right now. Why not do this? But it seems like Lana is still going to be a part of this. So I don't know if they do a tag team thing. I don't know if they bring Sarah Logan back into it. Unfortunately, I don't think the turn was very well executed. But, I mean, listen, I don't know. We'll see how they follow
up. We had shots of the snowstorm, and then Mojo Rawley and Riddick Moss are in the ring, and they explain that this match coming up is not for the 24/7 title. That's because he's taking on Drew McIntyre, who is so way above this title. Drew comes out, and he thanks the city for fighting through this blizzard to be here. He warns Mojo, when I put this microphone down, I'm going to Claymore your head off. He called his shot. But before that, he says that he was attacked by Lesnar from behind last week, and that's fine because it means that Brock is apprehensive of the sexy Scotsman.
Yeah, those exact words. I thought they had dropped that nickname. Certainly if you're going up against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, I don't know if, like, labeling yourself the sexy Scotsman is going to really endear you to at least the male audience, that they're trying to build Drew McIntyre towards.
That's not going to be Tom Phillips' big WrestleMania call. The sexy Scotsman has slayed the beast.
Of all nicknames, why? Why, like, oh man. I just, like, even when, like, Shawn was, like, when they were really pushing Shawn to beat Bret at, like, WrestleMania 12, I think, like, the sexiness of his character was somewhat, like, diminished, right? Like, it's not like Vince was calling the sexy boy has achieved his boyhood dream. So I don't know why for Drew McIntyre, somebody who I think for his entire run has been really just largely, like, non-sexualized at all. I don't know why they're picking this particular time to call attention to his sexiness.
Well, the sexy Scotsman concluded his promo by saying he'll kick Brock's head off his shoulders at WrestleMania, and notes that he forgot Mojo Rawley was in the corner. He totally forgot about this geek. And then Mojo leans through the ropes to hand his title to Riddick Moss, and had they done the kiss, this would have been an exact recreation of Sheamus and Daniel Bryan, because Mojo turned around and got Claymored and lost the match in 7 seconds.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was a little bit off, wasn't he?
Yeah, the announcers are trying to explain that it was less than 3 seconds. Like, is that even logically possible in a match that requires 3 to beat you? Like, I didn't even understand this.
Depends who's counting, I suppose. But beyond like the sexy Scotsman thing, I do think like Drew, his gimmick now is essentially that he's so confident that he's able to call his shots, and he's able to just like he knows he's going to beat Brock Lesnar. And I think he's trying to show that whatever he says he's going to do, he will. And I think that's good, but I don't know, something about him here in this segment came across as almost just like a little too much arrogance, like the bullying kind of arrogance, dismissing Rowley by saying, "Oh, I forgot you were there." Like, I think if he was doing this to somebody that was actually a bit more hated, like a Randy Orton level guy, it would come across well. But because Mojo Rawley is so much lower on the totem pole than Drew McIntyre, like McIntyre, I guess being this cocky, almost to me comes across like it's bullying, like being this disrespectful against somebody who didn't really do anything wrong to him. To me, it made him a little bit more unlikable.
It's, I see though the logic in what they're doing with this guy. It's like, Mojo Rawley is certainly not the priority here. Everything is about getting Drew over. I think the audience did get into this, but I do sense that same thing. Like, this was not a babyface that you're backing. It's like, this is the asshole that will also put you in a locker, Drew McIntyre.
Yeah. And I don't know if Mojo cut a promo on the crowd before this during commercial that we didn't see. That might make a difference. At least on TV, it was like, man, what did this guy do to you?
I hope your cars are so frozen you can't even drive home tonight.
Whoa.
I don't know. What would really strike a nerve with this crowd in Utah?
Yeah, I don't know, something to that effect. I hope you run out of antifreeze.
Well, that was that. That was our Drew McIntyre chapter of the show. Charlie is with Buddy Murphy and AOP, and they're going to be having an elimination match tonight against Owens and the Viking Raiders. No mention of Samoa Joe in this. They didn't have any kind of update on him. So assuming that he's still dealing with a concussion from last week. Buddy says they've already won, and their opponents are working harder, but not smarter. And Rollins walks in, says, "I've got this tonight." And he says that he's beaten Lesnar twice for the title in the past, and Drew McIntyre should start preparing for him at WrestleMania after he wins this #1 contenders match later tonight. So it's Buddy, AOP against Owens and the Raiders, elimination match. Rollins is out with the team, and eventually they build up to this big tag with Ivar, who's like the serious version of Otis, is what I've realized.
Yeah, sure.
Who likes to dress up as a Viking.
I mean, he does more like high flying, like more spectacular wrestling. Yeah.
Eric nearly kills himself on this suicide dive where his feet caught onto the ropes. And then Ivar is he charges at the LED board and runs into it shoulder first. And his shoulder had so much impact, it like blew up the LED board that went to static as a result of this. And Rollins hit Eric with a stomp, so he got pinned, and Ivar was taken out of the match because of his shoulder injury, leaving Owens in a 3-on-1 situation against Buddy Murphy and AOP.
So like last week, except this time it was 3-on-1 instead of 2-on-1, and this was, clearly the planned destination this week.
Yeah, Owens, he's really got to watch out for these partners of his that are just dropping.
They're all unreliable. Yeah.
So he ends up fighting them 2-on-1 or 3-on-1. He hits Buddy with a DDT. There's a cannonball to Akam, and then lands a swanton, but Buddy gets his knees up, does a pop-up to Buddy, and eliminates him, to everyone's surprise. Then he catches Akam with a stunner, pinning him, so it's down to him and Razor, and the crowd's getting behind him. They're chanting KO when Rollins distracts him, and Razor hits 2 spine busters that I guess are the finish that they're giving Razor, and he pins Kevin Owens at 22 minutes and 16 seconds. And then they left Owens in the ring alone as the crowd gave him this big standing ovation for his valiant effort against these 3.
Yeah. I guess they were. I don't know if like whenever they do these standing ovations, if they're like planned like way beforehand, or if they just like kind of wait to see how a match might come across, and then they'll just like give that space if the match is successful. But nonetheless, I thought this was a very successful match that kind of warranted that very successful standing ovation reaction at the end. I thought was a pretty genius move to play off of last week's unintentional handicap match by, scripting a deliberate one. And I would say this week, I think it worked even better. Having Owens go up against the 3 of them. I think him losing at the end was the right finish. To have Owens single-handedly beat all 3 members would have been really bad for AOP. And the goal of it all at the end was to put the heat on Rollins so that you're building up Owens versus Rollins. And I thought they were really successful.
Yeah, Owens is certainly, I think, getting a good run here in this babyface role, and obviously building to something here, ultimately with all of these different components here. And, hopefully Joe is not out long so that he's involved in this as well. But I think they're doing a good job with Owens overall. He's been very inconsistently handled for a number of years at this point, that this seems to be something sustainable, because I think after the Shane McMahon program and moving him to Raw, there was that thought that, once again, he's going to get lost in the shuffle. And it seems that he's got something concrete here with these guys.
Yep.
Charlie interviewed Ricochet. He has wanted to prove that he can be one of the best since he was 14. And this might sound unrealistic because he isn't as big or as strong like Lashley or has a gang like Seth Rollins. I've got a slim chance, but determination can outweigh probability. And this means everything to me. So I just want to be able to compare shirts. Rise over size or determination can outweigh probability.
It'd have to be a really big shirt.
That's a lot of letters to put onto a shirt, but
yeah.
Determination can outweigh probability. Boy, that's right up there with superheroes are real.
Yeah. Well, you know what? He made no mention of superheroes in this promo.
No, they've gotten away from that.
I hope
thankfully.
So. Like instead, I think they were pivoting here to more realistic, like I want to prove I'm one of the best type of thing, which is really for the better. So I hope the superhero thing is done for now. This was a lot of words Ricochet had to memorize and regurgitate back in a short amount of time.
That'll be his new name.
Memorize and regurgitate. Yeah, regurgitate instead of Ricochet.
It's regurgitate.
And I thought he did an amicable job of like doing that. I think the tone of his voice is still a little bit dorky, and I think a promo like this still just lacks charisma, whether or not it's because it feels like it's somebody just memorizing and rereading. But I do think he's getting better. Ultimately, I feel like within the WWE system, he's going to be one of those guys who won't really be able to find his voice until he turns heel.
And you're also talking about just an obsession in this company with pointing out, hey, I'm small.
Yeah, he's not even that small.
No one looks at that like, yes, okay, in comparison, but it's like these.
How much smaller is he than Seth Rollins?
Defining, not that smaller. You're right. Like it's
Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, it's just like, and it's like it's always presented as like this weakness that one must overcome. And it's one thing to do your David versus Goliath story, but when that's like that's the feature for so many of these guys that it's just you're out of tune with your audience who are not thinking on that wavelength because they see all of these guys and size is not the inhibitor that it once was visually for all of these people. And Rollins is a perfect example of that.
Even if it is, like, I don't understand emphasizing it to any benefit, like you can build an underdog. I think just like on a feud by feud basis, if they happen to be that much smaller. But it's like, I don't see the need to like emphasize and really pigeonhole somebody as the small guy.
Aleister Black destroyed Eric Young in a minute 16 with the Black Mass. And then he said, he asked a question that actually I'm always thinking about. Remember when you were young and they told you that you could grow up to be anything you want? But later on, you realize it was quite the opposite. See, I never understood that because that's not real and that's not authentic. I am a firm believer that people should be whoever they choose to be because that right there drives relentless competition. As I'm trying to figure out what he's saying, he then sits down cross-legged and the lights dim. Like I'm at some poetry reading.
Like he's got like, there's like, you can clap. Remember they used to, they used to have like the light switches that you activate by clapping? Or he's got like, maybe, I don't know. But so I guess he activates lights by sitting cross-legged.
Well, he doesn't want any light to seep in because he will engulf the room with shadows from the Black Mass. And while you are laying there, you will realize that it was done by a person who could be whatever he wanted to be. Dude, if my life depended on it, I could not translate this for you. And I have no idea what this message was or that it was written and provided to this man to read. God bless this dude for somehow getting this into a verbal presentation form because I don't know what this was.
That sort of dialogue sounds like somebody might have come up with it if they used, like, if they wrote
drugs?
Like if they wrote it in a different language and then put it into Google Translate and then just read that. Like I'm with you. Like this is the same issue that Bray Wyatt had in that. I mean, the promos can sound really cool. The guy looks really cool, but they don't connect at all because you have no fucking clue what this guy is trying to say. People should be whoever they want to be because it drives relentless competition. What does that mean? Can we try to deep dive into this? Like
what is competitive and what is being yourself have anything to do? Like, what are these two things? That's like, he literally could have said, I drink orange juice and therefore my taxes are higher. Like, that's it. Like, it's two things that just I don't understand this at all.
So at the beginning, he was saying what? Like he was, when he was growing up, people told him what he could be or couldn't be.
My guess is that this is a guy who was told you cannot do things, and he has proved the critics wrong, that you can be anyone you want to be and be successful at it. That is what I'm trying to imagine.
That's what drives relentless competition. Now, like, he's trying to speak of it as this is like some sort of universal truth. So, like, not everybody wants to, like, I don't know, be a pro wrestler. So, like, if I wanted to be, like, a mailman growing up, and somebody told me, no, you can't do that job. Nobody uses the mail anymore. But then I said, people should be whoever they want to be because it drives relentless competition. How would that apply to me?
I don't know. I have nothing that I am living through Aleister Black's messaging through. I don't know.
Are you driving relentless competition by being a wrestling journalist?
You know what's really cool? When this dude boots people in the fucking face. That's really cool.
I know. Yeah. No, I mean, even the squash match, I thought Eric Young made Black look great. He even had a bit of blood on the mouth from like face planting that just added to the effect. His offense just looks so good, so clean. But like it's these promos that just, I don't know who's in charge of like doing these anymore, but it's God. Like if it's Heyman, I just fuck. There's something's just not connecting about him.
This is who Arn Anderson should have been managing.
Or anybody. Sure.
Arn would have made this work.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know where this is going with Aleister Black. It feels like he was the odd man out in the sweepstakes, and now I don't know where he's going. But anyway, this was not a great promo. They recapped Humberto's attack on Andrade, who they just said is out indefinitely. And then, get your cameras out, Steve Cook from the blue team on The Biggest Loser was here on Raw. Didn't even advertise it a week or two in advance. Dude from the blue team. Steve Cook.
Oh, I'm sure the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is putting in their request right now. Wow.
They announced that this Friday on SmackDown, Bill Goldberg will be appearing on the show in San Jose. And that was it. That was the tease. Bill Goldberg on Friday.
Who's he going to face?
Well, I mean, my guess, I don't know this, this would seem to make sense that he's doing the Saudi Arabia show. Would you not assume that?
Oh, yeah. But against who?
Against who is... do you just see him doing like some quick, like the Dolph Ziggler squash that he did at SummerSlam, and it's just some random heel on the show? I
mean, considering that, like he last time he was there, he had a match against The Undertaker. I feel like that would be a bit of a letdown if it was just a Goldberg appearance, you know? So,
maybe he's coming to help out his little buddy Shorty G with Big G. It's going to be Big and Shorty G.
Whoa. Okay.
And Sheamus will have to find a partner. Oh my God, Big G.
Could be Baron Corbin.
Yeah, I guess like that. If that's done with Reigns, that's as good a choice as any. Yeah. This is not a show that's loaded with heels. I mean, you've run through Ziggler. Rude would sound very unspectacular on paper.
Maybe it's Mansoor.
Goldberg teaming with Mansoor or Goldberg taking on Mansoor?
I think they should have Mansoor pin Goldberg.
They're not going to do that.
Yeah, maybe it's Matt Riddle.
I want to see Big and Shorty G.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Then we had Zelina Vega come out and brings out Angel Garza. Wai's pick.
Yeah,
he called this one
as we predicted here. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. I guess it kind of makes the title loss at Worlds Collide make a bit more sense. But who knows, like, what was in the works at that time? Like, I'm sure maybe at that point they knew that Andrade was going to be suspended.
They didn't know at Worlds Collide when he lost the Cruiserweight title.
Oh, they didn't?
They didn't know, I believe, until Monday or at least, yeah. So
okay.
They wouldn't have known Saturday for Worlds Collide. So, maybe this was just a reaction. Like they were already planning to put it on Jordan Devlin and he could go to 205 Live and NXT UK, and this kind of just fell into their lap. I mean, it makes sense to go with this. So I'm glad for Zelina Vega's sake that she doesn't have to just sit on the sidelines for a month, that they're going to utilize her during this time off for Andrade.
I guess a bit of a I don't know, happy accident or to have Carrillo freed up from NXT to be able to use it.
And it's not like Andrade's just out of the plans. They kept the title on him, so obviously, like, he's not going to be just forgotten when he comes back. So this could work out for everyone. I really liked Vega's promo coming out here. She said that nobody smart plays fair, and vulnerability is a liability. And she found Carrillo's liability and said, when you mess with my business, you pay the price. And this isn't some hired hitman. He is a former champion in NXT, the hottest Latino prospect. So I guess there's rankings out there. And he's your cousin. And Garza speaks in Spanish, says he's the leader of their family. And Carrillo, you answer to me, and you're a disgrace. And Carrillo grabs the microphone. He responds in Spanish, gets slapped by Vega, and then Garza jumps him, hits the wing clipper, and goes to deliver the DDT on the exposed floor when outruns Rey Mysterio to save Carrillo yet again. And we get an impromptu match with Angel Garza and Rey Mysterio. But what did you think of the introduction of Garza and the lead up to the match?
I wasn't as big of a fan of Zelina's promo. I thought it was a little too long and drawn out. Same with when Angel Garza, when it was his turn to talk. I think as a result, that's why you started to hear somewhat chants. Beyond the fact that I suppose, they weren't even speaking English, and this crowd was chanting what? And I think that has more to do with the fact that it was just like a long drawn out explanation from Zelina to get to the point about Angel Garza being Humberto Carrillo's cousin. They were kind of like testing the crowd's patience, and for somebody that's relatively unknown like Angel Garza, I suppose that patience isn't very long. But the beatdown I thought was really good, and I think charisma wise, you already see it a lot from Angel Garza. I even liked Carrillo here. Like, I have no idea what Carrillo said in Spanish, but his retaliation was like full of fire. It was like more kind of emotion that we saw like last week when he attacked Andrade. So overall, I think the pairing is a big positive. Not the biggest fan of, I think, the actual debut though.
So they did note in the match that Angel Garza is the nephew of the late Hector Garza, and Ray sets up for a 619 that gets avoided. He's then yanked to the floor. Lawler says that cousins don't always see eye to eye and brings up, my cousin's the Honky Tonk Man. Garza then missed a moonsault off the middle rope. There's a seated senton by Ray, and then Garza grabs the leg, lands a knee strike for a 2 count. Ray with the destroyer, and then Vega pulls Garza away from the 619. There's a somersault out of the corner to the floor, and Vega starts arguing with Ray, which allows Garza to then super kick him and hits a DDT to Ray onto the exposed floor. The DQ gets called at 13 minutes, 10 seconds, and the fans boo this as Ray is taken out on the cement, which, I mean, given last week's angle, you would have to think like Ray has to be off TV.
You would think so, yeah. They've been really protecting this DDT on the concrete spot. So yeah, it wouldn't make sense for Ray to just come back. And I guess this was all just done to further Angel Garza versus Humberto Carrillo, which I suppose Ray being off of Saudi Arabia is interesting too. Did he do the last one?
Oh, I'd have to look it up.
I feel like
I think he did.
I think he did too. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he'll be back for Saudi Arabia. Who knows? Like on paper, I feel like this is a match that in another promotion, I think you would have really built to, like Angel Garza versus Rey Mysterio for the first time on WWE TV. To me, should feel like it's a bigger deal, especially if you have like your sights set on really promoting Angel Garza. But, for whatever circumstance, they decided to just rush it onto TV here with no real promotion. But for a debut TV match, like if you're Angel Garza, you couldn't ask for a better opponent, Good match. Not that much heat given the lack of familiarity with Garza, I think. But he looked really good in ring, very comfortable, very charismatic on a big stage here. And it just feels like they're kind of going to just carry on as usual, with like Andrade essentially being recast with Angel Garza.
And Ray was on the last, the Crown Jewel one. He was in Cain Velasquez's corner.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Right. So, yeah, we'll see.
WWE backstage this week, we'll have the sexy Scotsman as the featured guest. Charlotte Flair comes out and is repeatedly pointing at the WrestleMania sign to try and be obnoxious. And she says she's held the Raw title many times and beaten Becky. She's also held the SmackDown title and beaten Bayley. So the crowd starts chanting Rhea and says she has love for NXT and she's held all the gold 10 times. And then Rhea Ripley's music plays and out comes Ripley and she walks into the ring, says that Charlotte has never beaten her and brings up that she has beaten Charlotte, which was the three-way match they did on SmackDown around the Survivor Series with that finish where Charlotte had Sasha in the figure eight and then Rhea came from underneath with the crucifix pinning Charlotte. It was a really creative finish. So does have a pinfall over Charlotte. And
so, hey,
they really should have showed this, I think.
Maybe they'll do it next week. I suppose if you're trying to promote like an impromptu encounter, wouldn't really make sense to just air it. But yeah, for this angle, maybe on Wednesday actually they'll air it. But also Anyway, so like now that NXT is, I guess, a recognized brand, do they start including NXT title reigns as far for like, you know, total title reigns?
They did here, didn't they? So,
well, because she's been 5-time SmackDown Women's Champion, 4-time Raw Women's Champion, 1-time Divas Champion. So if you included the NXT Championship, it'd be 11.
Oh, would that mean they're not including the NXT titles in that? Well, how do they get to the number 10?
Well, the Divas, Raw, and SmackDown.
Okay, so that NXT is not part of that number 10.
Doesn't seem like it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's a good question how they arrive at that figure.
Sorry. Yep.
Yeah, Charlotte just Rhea challenged her to a match at WrestleMania. Charlotte didn't give her an answer. She just walked past her, got up to the ramp, did a woo, and exited. And then later in the show, they announced that Charlotte will answer Rhea's challenge this Wednesday on NXT. And I thought this was very smart on their part to, first of all, put Rhea onto the big show in front of the most people, but the answer comes on Wednesday. And I think that was a really smart way to set this up.
Yes, it was smart. I mean, I think ultimately you see maybe the intent behind this program is not only to promote Rhea Ripley, but also to get Charlotte Flair onto NXT as a bit of a hook for maybe casual audiences. And we'll see how successful that is. I thought Rhea Ripley, again, came across really well. You know, unlike Angel Garza, this crowd is certainly more familiar with Rhea Ripley. They gave her, you know, a pretty good reaction, considering, I think, sporadic appearances since Survivor Series. But, you know, anytime she comes out, she just feels like a star. She looks edgy. She looks genuine. She just looks like a cooler champion than most of your WWE main roster champions. So, I think this will be a big match.
I think so too. I think this is going to be. I like this direction. I like sending people to NXT to get the answer on this as well. I guess I'll reserve judgment until seeing it on Wednesday. I just hope it's done in such a way that it doesn't make Bianca Belair and this takeover match feel like it's just lost in all of this, and asking like why you just didn't wait till after the takeover match. But there's a way to do this on Wednesday as well. Like Bianca Belair, she had that amazing Rumble performance, and I think can cut the promo that it's not going to be you challenging Charlotte or you facing Charlotte at Mania. It's going to be me, and I'm going to ruin this match for you. And you can set that up on Wednesday as well with Bianca.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody really expects Belair to beat Ripley at all, but I think like just to let people know that you're at least thinking about, like, you're not overlooking Bianca Belair as like a potential contender. Just like give me a bit of potential scenario that the announcers can line out, or that, you know, tease me a little bit. Maybe have Charlotte cut a promo on Belair to make me think that, oh, that might be a possible match at WrestleMania too. None of us think it's really going to happen, but it's just more so like help me suspend my disbelief a little bit more.
Sarah Schreiber interviewed Bobby Lashley. He's going to defeat both Rollins and Ricochet, and he gives a spoiler that he'll beat Lesnar at Super Showdown. His spoiler percentage rate not going so well. He's going to go to WrestleMania and beat the hell out of Drew McIntyre.
What I found a little notable coming out of this was how the announcers were putting over Lashley versus Brock Lesnar as a dream match. That, you know, they say Lashley has been campaigning for ever since he came back to the WWE. And I don't think that they would use that sort of language unless they had perhaps some intent to do that match down the line. So
maybe a house show.
That'd be disappointing. House show.
I just think like 2 years ago, at this point, I don't know how many people are clamoring for it. I think at least this version of Bobby Lashley, he to me would have to be significantly built up for a match of that level. Yeah. They need to bring Dan Lambert back. That's who they need.
Oh, yeah, sure.
He's back doing MLW now.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. You really would prefer Dan Lambert over Lana?
Maybe that could be Lana's new. That should be Lana's new husband. The guy who almost bought the UFC in 2000, Dan Lambert. And Lana has just married into a fortune. And the two of them are just running things.
The potential for like backstage skits with Dan Lambert and Lana could be very interesting with Bobby Lashley caught in the middle.
Yeah. It's like Bobby brings in the American Top Team owner, and then Lana ends up cheating on Bobby with Lambert, and then that babyface is Bobby. This could be a long-term great angle. Asuka and Natalya. Natalya was wearing an armband for Kobe Bryant and his daughter that they explained with her and her own father. Just doing this in memory of them. And each are going for submissions at the beginning, which led up to Natalya yelling at Asuka, "You want to shoot on me?" And these two ended up having, I thought, a really strong match together. And they're coming in, cold program. There's nothing really linking these two. You're in the third hour, and I thought they did a really good job of just building this crowd to really get into this. And it was just through, just having a really solid match together.
I agree. I mean, plenty of obstacles, I think, preventing. We're not supposed to remember this match, basically. Like, this was just supposed to happen. It didn't really have any repercussions as far as any bigger storylines. But these two went out there, and I think they took full advantage of the space on TV and both of their own talents to, like, have this really great, hard-hitting, I would say, like, a Japanese style of match. It was really good to see Asuka use a lot of her MMA offense. Great to see, like, a similar style from Natalya as well, coupled with, like, a great deal of, like, added aggression. It was the type of match that I thought was decent on Raw, but I think would have been very good if it was in front of like a more appreciative crowd at like a Full Sail.
There was an Asuka lock attempt. Natalya got to the ropes. She came back with punches, a spinning sit-out powerbomb. They went through the break. There was one kick where it looked like Asuka just nailed her that they showed the replay of. There's an armbar. Natalya breaks out of that. They go to a Kimura, a guillotine by Asuka that's turned into a vertical suplex, and Natalya with the big discus clothesline. She applies the sharpshooter. Asuka gets to the rope, and Kairi Sane distracts her, allowing Natalya to be placed into the Asuka lock and taps out in 12 minutes with Asuka refusing to release it, and then finally does. I just thought given the disadvantages they had at the start of this and where it was placed on the show and the things we just went over, I was really impressed with these two. I thought they did a very good job having what could have just been a forgettable match, and they ended up, really working, to me, a strong match together.
I liked this more than the Becky Asuka match that we just saw. And I thought it was far better than your typical Raw women's TV matches.
They did very good here. Asuka gets on the microphone, and she's demanding a rematch with Becky Lynch. And Becky comes out, says that you avoided me for a year, but now you want to face me again. But she doesn't mind because she feels like she has superpowers after the Royal Rumble. So maybe that's why Ricochet has lost his superhero status. Becky is the one with the superpowers.
Okay, yeah.
She asks, why would I put my title on the line so close to WrestleMania? But answers her own question that beating Asuka's ass twice is why. And she agrees to the rematch. And then Kairi Sane tries to run at Becky. Becky showed all the caution of someone that like dropped their phone on the floor and just casually just shoved Kairi out with one arm. She took her with one arm, threw her out of the ring, and with her other arm just held her title in place on her shoulder. Kairi could not have looked more of a minor nuisance to Becky Lynch during this deal.
Well, I mean, I feel like that was sort of the intent. Like what is it? Becky didn't even drop her belt. I think the intent was to look like, because when she came out with those sunglasses, she was wearing those Thug Life sunglasses. You know what I mean? Do you know
Yes.
the meme? Yeah. So I mean, the idea is like she wanted to do this, I think, effortlessly to look cool. I don't know if it was that successful, but I feel like that might have been part of the reason.
Seth Rollins is out for the main event. He cuts a long promo about wanting to beat Lesnar for the title again. Last year when he said that, he got cheered. Now they crucified him. And anyway, they're really pushing the disciples and the him being crucified. He's going to beat Brock again for the greater good, and it's going to be remembered 100 years from now, him beating Brock because he'll have saved the industry, and he will, and it won't be Drew versus Lesnar at WrestleMania. So 100 years from now, we'll be talking about this potential match.
I've been a fan of the faction. I've been a fan of Rollins as a heel, but I would say he's now just become a pretty stereotypical pro wrestling villain who just makes these kind of grandiose statements instead of as like, you know, I think the potential for this sort of character could have been a lot more believable, a lot more serious, a lot more realistic. As a cult leader, I don't find him nearly as convincing as somebody, let's say like CM Punk, or even like to perhaps a lesser extent Bray Wyatt. Like instead, Seth just feels like he's playing a cartoon evil villain, which is fine. It fulfills a role, but it's not a type of character that I feel like will be lasting or will catch that much attention.
Becky and Asuka is announced for next week's episode of Raw in Ontario, California. And then it was the three-way, winner taking on Brock at Super ShowDown. No Lana, out with Lashley. Ricochet hit a Fosbury flop onto Rollins. Murphy and AOP run down, and they start attacking Ricochet and Lashley on the floor when Kevin Owens comes out, attacking Murphy, and then Eric returns because Ivar is hurt, and they end up fighting off the AOP with chairs, taking them through the crowd, and Buddy Murphy and AOP were referred to by Tom Phillips as the Black Hand of Raw.
The Black Hand of Raw, okay. Because he's got a black glove. What about his own black hand?
Was this supposed to be like a playoff of like The Hand?
From Daredevil?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I didn't know necessarily what he was trying to piece together here. All three are on the turnbuckle. It ends in this Tower of Doom, which is pretty much Ricochet delivering a superplex to Rollins and Lashley kind of just falling backward. So this took Rollins out of the match, and Ricochet just climbed to the top, hit a 630, and almost felt like kind of out of nowhere that the pin comes, and he pinned Lashley at 13:26, and before the bell can even finish ringing, Lesnar has charged the ring and hits Ricochet with an F5. Crowd went nuts for this, and Lesnar just held up his title to end the show. So a surprise appearance by Brock, and we've got Brock Lesnar and Ricochet at Super ShowDown.
It's a match that I think most probably saw coming after, you know, seeing Ricochet eliminate or help eliminate Brock Lesnar. They didn't really make mention of that here, but I imagine they would continue to replay that clip a lot in the weeks to come. I think it's a good, fresh match. Good enough for Saudi Arabia, I guess, whatever. It's a placeholder match for Brock before Mania. And I think they did their best to make Ricochet look strong without, I suppose, diminishing Rollins and Lashley. This was still a bit of a, he snuck his way in there and got the victory at the end. And I can't really say the crowd reacted that big for Ricochet's win because, like, I don't sense Ricochet being that hot of a character prior to this, to the point that the audience really wants to see him challenge Lesnar. But they do have time to build him up. Hopefully, with a big push like this comes more serious wins for Ricochet.
Yeah, I think they've got their work cut out for them over the next few weeks to really position Ricochet as a threat to Brock, because it's kind of a very difficult spot that, I mean, the outcome is pretty much, a certainty. So, but it could be a really fun match. Like Brock with like smaller opponents, it usually turns into an entertaining match. So they've got that going for them.
It could. But, Ricochet is also so much lower on the totem pole than Brock Lesnar.
It could be a short match.
I could see this being like a 2-3 minute squash, the way like the Kofi Kingston match. Both Kofi Kingston matches were. Like, right. Remember the one in Japan?
Yeah. I don't see them going 15-20. I would say, like could be like a sub 10-minute match between these two. So, I mean, Brock's going to be on these Saudi Arabia shows, and it's just throw someone at them. It's not like they have anyone that was ready for this kind of a spot, nor would you
they want to give it away.
No, that's it.
Like, they could have done Lashley here. I think they're looking to save that, So, anyway.
What'd you think about tonight's show?
I thought it was a pretty decent Raw. I thought you had some good wrestling on the show, some movement in storylines. Several surprises, I thought, with the debut of Angel Garza, Rhea Ripley showing up here, and Brock at the end. So I would say a pretty decent Raw overall.
All right. Well, let's head over to the feedback tonight. And everyone voted and gave Raw 6.2 tonight. So it seems that Raw has been running a pretty good run of shows of late.
And again, though, like a 6.2 out of 10 isn't necessarily great. But
it's a passway. It's given where Raw was throughout like the fall and into the like later months of last year. I mean, this show had become just like paint drying at times.
Yeah, it's better than it was. Yes.
Okay, we'll start off things with Paul from New Jersey. Cool to see Ruby Riott back. Hopefully Ruby can rescue Liv from the cuck angle. Drew McIntyre sounds comfortable on the mic, while Ricochet shouldn't be allowed to be in the same room as one. I was wondering how they were going to use Zelina Vega with Andrade out. It must suck when somebody you are tagging with or managing tests positive. You don't know how it will affect you. That being said, I thought tonight was great. Vega bringing out Humberto's cousin, who looks like an absolute star in Angel Garza. Hopefully Garza isn't doing Weekend Update promos in a couple of weeks. Sign of the night goes to the guy in the front row with the Mojo's Only Fan sign. And he gives this show a 6.
Okay, we got Andrew from Cape Breton who says, I love wrestling a lot sometimes. I couldn't imagine in 2008 that this skinny kid with big hair in Shikara would be challenging for the WWE title. But here we are. I expect this match to be more like a Sonata IWGP title match, but I'm excited to see what they do with Ricochet. I also liked seeing Angel Garza debut. He wasn't known by much of the crowd, but with a good manager and a shit-eating grin, I think he got over as a big heel tonight. I really hope Zelina Vega brings more people in, as she could be the next sensational Sherry or Sunny in the WWE. Overall, a pretty good show tonight. The big lowlight of the show was WWE bragging about making their production crew work in extremely dangerous conditions. 6 out of 10.
McGuire writes, it seemed like a pretty good crowd tonight. It's a shame they felt compelled to drown out Zelina Vega with what chance? I'm not normally very excited to see Natalya in the ring, but she and Asuka told a good story and their styles meshed well. It was a good match. Please tell me Becky's Thug Life meme sunglasses are just a one-time thing. This is some cringe we do not need on a character like hers. Did you guys hear there was a snowstorm in Utah? Not sure if this was mentioned. Gives this show an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I don't know if she's selling those glasses or if she just got them and thought they were fun. She's trying to... I wonder if we'll see them again.
It could have been Drew that they gave the glasses to, so...
It's the whole goat thing that she's trying to, I don't know, get over.
It seems like come WrestleMania season, like they come up with all these wacky ideas for like their pushed few. Like they're just going to come up with like more things to connect them with their fan base. And it's sometimes you get some wild stuff.
Yeah. All right, we go to Gerard, who says, finally, it feels like the road to WrestleMania has begun. The show was definitely one of the better Raws recently, with lots of build and little silliness. Though it's too bad we are going to get Ricochet versus Brock at Super Showdown that many will skip because Brock usually has pretty good matches with smaller wrestlers. Any thoughts if you think Charlotte appearing on NXT can close the gap with AEW this Wednesday night?
I think it'll be something notable. I'm not saying it can mean a win for NXT on Wednesday night, but I think it's we've seen the track record of when WWE talent is advertised for NXT. That usually means a bump, and this has something with ramifications for WrestleMania. So I'll be interested to see how well this does on Wednesday. I don't think it's that big of a deal. That it would make that big of a difference for the ratings. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe not. We got a Nick from yours. Yeah. Nick from Lansing, a surprisingly fun episode of Raw. For me, the lowlights were the repeated mention of how dangerous it was for everyone in attendance to be there, but there were plenty of fun matches and story continuations for me to look past. I'm not a fan of any heel not giving us a straight answer after a particularly dastardly action, but Orton made it work like few others could tonight. Liv getting a quick win over Lana feels like the right direction to be heading, and I personally thought the Riott Squad was underrated and should have stayed together longer, so the idea of a rivalry between the two has me thrilled. Great to see Garza make his Raw debut against Rey Mysterio. As fun as the main event was, Asuka and Natalya stole the show, having what I thought comfortably would be the best TV match on Raw so far this year. Sample size, sure, but they both went out with something to prove, and Becky coming out with the I don't give a fuck shades was the perfect way to cap it off. I suspect this will be everyone's question, but with Charlotte being advertised to NXT, do you think they'll be able to claw one more ratings victory this Wednesday? I'm not predicting it's going to be a win, but I could see NXT certainly getting a bump from it. And it'll also be interesting where they position that on the show. Do they build up to it? Is it done? Like, where do you put that on the show as well?
Tyler Crane from Salt Lake City. What's up, Jon and Wai? I attended Raw live tonight. This is actually the first TV taping we've had here in over 12 years. Initially, I was kind of concerned the show would get canceled due to the snow, but luckily the roads were pretty clear by showtime. Some of my personal highlights were the opening segment with Orton. Just nothing but loud boos for a good 5 minutes. Orton is just great as a heel. I thought the 6-man tag was great live. Owens was super over. The Charlotte and Rhea segment was a great surprise. Rhea came across like a big star. Also, Becky Lynch continues to be one of the most over in this company, and the main event was also pretty good. It's nice to see Ricochet get a big win. Too bad it's just going to lead to him being decimated by Lesnar. Hopefully, our enthusiasm and energy leads to more TV tapings or maybe even pay-per-views in the future. Overall, pretty good episode of Raw. Can't wait to chat with you guys in a couple of weeks on Rewind Away. Keep up the great work. Yes, Tyler is an executive producer, so thank you for the live report, Tyler.
Yeah, we look forward to doing that show. And I would say the Salt Lake City crowd probably did themselves a great showing for WWE on Monday night. They seemed very happy with this crowd and coming in this snowstorm. And the last one was Chris Thunder from Down Under. I'll admit I'm more of a casual fan now, but the possibility of Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte for the WrestleMania, for the championship match has me excited. However, the Liv Lana match and constant what chance at Zelina speaking English are a huge negative. Lastly, I don't need to see another Gilbert match at Saudi Mania, no matter if it's against The Fiend or the Bro. Well, yeah, I guess that will be that'll be the big hook for Friday. Solo, Wai Ting, and Goldberg on Friday night.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Once again, Wai and I will be back Tuesday night. Rewind Away, number 54, chatting the WWE's big trip to Australia in the summer of 2002, and we'll be reviewing the Global Warning event that apparently was almost a 4-hour show that they edited down to 2 hours on the network.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably done for home video release, but
yeah.
I think we're going to talk about the main matches either way.
So that is coming up on Tuesday night. And then once again, the whole schedule is up at postwrestling.com. And thank you to everyone for tuning in, and we'll speak with you on Tuesday night.